Welcome, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining us here on the Keepers of the Watch podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones, and I hope everyone is having a great day or a great part of the year heading into the summer months. Of course, you live down here in South Florida. Everything's summer months, so it really doesn't matter as much. But for my friends up north, the good weather is coming. So we look forward to that. I want to definitely take a few moments to point out One Brother, One Sister, who sponsors this show right in our Sober Life studios. One Brother, One Sister, if you want to check them out, they do trainings and education programs for first responders and veterans all over the country, especially right down here in South Florida, but it really goes all over the country. And we work with sponsors and other people to make sure that we can mitigate the cost of that for our first responders and our veterans. And we take on that responsibility through the One Brother, One Sister nonprofit. If you want to learn more about that, go to onebrother1sister.com. And hey, if you're feeling moved or in the moment, make a donation, because every dollar you send us goes right towards the education and services for our first responders and our veterans. So thank you for that. And again, now on with the Keepers of the Watch podcast. I've been working, recently have spoken to people over at Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health System. It's up in Radcliffe, Kentucky, one of their locations. And I've talked to some people up there. I actually did a show with a young lady a short time ago where we talked about their services. But one of the things that they really, really get involved in that I really, really like is a program for veterans. And I'm not going to be the expert on it. I don't know a lot about what they do. That's why we're calling in our guest today to tell us about that. But it's important to know that a lot of people can put it out on the internet. They can make the cute little ads that say we have veteran programs and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you the truth. Many of them fall short because they just kind of put the name veteran on it, but they don't actually build a program specifically to help them, whether you're helping with mental health disorders or addictions or whatever it might be. It has to be complete. And that's what we're talking about here. So who we have is, this is a representative, a VA regional account manager. He represents the connection between Lincoln Trail and the veterans and make sure they get the information. His name is Master Sergeant, retired Master Sergeant Fred Sherrick. And Fred, I want to thank you for joining us today. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, listen, it is absolutely my pleasure. And I'm sure you heard in the introduction that there's a lot of people out there that claim to be running veteran programs or even first responder programs, which are similar. They need a real focus. But a lot of those places fall short. And I know you've looked around at places, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. During my transition out of the Army a couple of months ago, that was one of the things to identify organizations that give back to veterans. And just like you said, some of the places, like they'll have the pretty badges and they'll have like cute little names for programs and stuff that they do. But when you dive down to it, it's I don't want to talk negatively about, but a lot of it comes down to marketing. And that's not what I was looking to be a part of. I wanted something that genuinely improved the situation for my brothers and sisters out there.
Well, and we're going to talk about how Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health System actually does that. We're going to talk about that. But first, let's learn a little bit about you, Fred. And first of all, myself and all of the listeners out there, we want to thank you for your service.
I appreciate the support, sir.
24 years in the military. That is above and beyond the call of duty, if you will. Tell us about, the branch you're in and your, the modalities that you served under and what you did.
So I was in the Army. I enlisted back in 2002. I initially enlisted as a wheeled vehicle mechanic. With that, I got to deploy 3 times to Iraq, once out of Germany with the 95th Military Police, and then I did 2 tours downrange with the 1st Cavalry Division. After that, in 2010, I was DA selected for recruiting. And I was so good that the Army was like, hey, you get to keep doing recruiting. So for the remaining part of my career. I was in recruiting command for 14 years, and my last duty assignment, I was actually up at the recruiting and retention college as a division chief / instructor while I was there.
Wow. And your choice to retire at 24 years, was there anything that precipitated that, or was that simply it's time for me to do something different?
I was actually medically retired, so the Army decided it was time for me to do something different. I was already in the process of preparing myself and preparing my family, both mentally, and just getting everything set up. So the Army just kind of moved that along a little bit faster than I was anticipating. But with being in the Army, because I enlisted when I was 19 years old, I was fresh out of high school. The last job I had before I became a soldier was at a fast food joint. So when it was like, oh, I got to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. So that was the biggest concern for me, was understanding what am I going to be passionate about and how am I going to pursue that passion. So I've been pretty fortunate in that transition aspect.
Well, that's really kind of what we're going to be talking about today is that transition. And, it's almost like when you're in a certain situation, you're protected from certain things, including yourself and your own thoughts, because you have a job to do and you do it, and you could lose yourself in that. But once you're home, now it's just you. It's just you. And the voices, and I don't mean voices like schizophrenic voices, right, although it might be, but the voices in your head, I mean, now you got nothing to do but listen to them. So was there a discomfort in all of a sudden becoming a civilian? And did it have any kind of mental health effect on you?
Absolutely. I have had personal battles with mental health, which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about being a part of Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health Systems. And during the transition, because like I said, it was all I ever knew, my entire adult life was, I am a soldier. This is my team. These are my brothers and sisters. To all of a sudden, hey, what's up, Mr. Sherrick? And it's like, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, everybody's patting me on the back and congratulating me on the retirement. But on the flip side of the same coin, it's like, what is my purpose now? That was the biggest thing for me, is what gets me out of bed, what makes me put pants on for the day, gets me away from the Netflix. Whereas I've always had that, I have my mission, I have my responsibilities. When I was the soldier following the leader, I had somebody to follow. When I was the soldier leading other soldiers, I was the leader, so I had to be out front. I always had that purpose. Even if my mission wasn't always 100% clear, I still had a purpose. If it was nothing else, it was to be there for my fellow soldiers. And once you get out, it's kind of like, do I still get to do that? How do I do that? So that was probably the biggest point of contention for me, was, like I said, just adapting to, I'm a soldier for life. I get that tagline, but I don't get to put the uniform on anymore. I don't get to have that bond at work that I don't want to say grew accustomed to, because it's all I ever knew. You don't grow accustomed to living on Earth. You're just here. But it's all I ever knew. So it was just trying to understand how I fit in the civilian workspace. It was pretty.
And this is not to minimize what you went through, but this is common, isn't it? This is something that a lot of people, we do see it also with first responders, police, fire, and some other places. We see it with professional sports, where it's like uniform identity. You take it off. Who are you? But with the military, you're right. Without that brotherhood being there all the time, were you shocked to see how many people were struggling with that? Or was that something you knew about before you retired?
Truth be told, it's the only time I really hear about it was when I would bring it up to somebody else, because it's like, I would feel like I was drowning, and it's like, hey, like, this is what I'm thinking. Because that's one of the challenges when it comes to veterans, is we tend to not express when we're going through troublesome times. We tend to keep that stuff pretty close to the chest, and it's like, well, I'm going to suck it up and drive on, and I'll figure it out later. I'll rub some dirt on it, and it'll be okay. But there was a couple of my battle buddies and a couple of people that I've spoke to before that when they learned that I was going through that transition, they would reach out and it was like, hey, dude, just know this is coming. Understand that it's normal. It's not just you. And would give me their advice on how they coped with it. And some of them would be like, hey, this is what I did. Don't do that. Wise man said, a smart person learns from their mistakes, but a wise person learns from somebody else's mistakes.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like in my immediate vicinity, nobody really would come out and be like, hey, prep for this. But reaching out to some of my battle buddies through Facebook from past units and stuff that they had already completed their transition, they kind of prepped the battlefield for me a little bit. So I was thankful for that. But that wasn't something that I saw coming. No, I was expecting butterflies.
What was the key for you now that you're kind of facing all of this? Did you find your secret formula for success as far as, getting yourself back on your feet and finding purpose again?
Yeah. And like I briefly mentioned earlier, it was all about identifying your passion. For me, because of my battles with mental health in the past, and some of them are ongoing. It's not like okay, I finished that battle, it's done. And understanding just how uncomfortable and how difficult that can make certain aspects of my life, and I don't want my fellow service members to have to go through that. So that was like, if I could take the skills, because mind you, I'm not clinical, I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything like that, but with the skills that I've learned throughout 2 decades of being a non-commissioned officer and a leader, and also being within the United States Army Recruiting Command, I can apply those skills that I've learned to help this organization who does have the therapists and the ability to help my brothers and sisters. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's important. I think identifying and finding a new purpose or a passion, as you said, it's so important. One of the things I help people with is finding a passion in creative writing, art, music, things like that as a way. But you have to find something that works for you. Now, you want to help people. How did you connect with Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health System? And as I mentioned at the beginning, knowing that there's a lot of people that just use the word veteran and think they have a program, what was it about Lincoln Trail that told you this is the real deal? I like what they're doing.
Well, my initial contact, I was using some online job boards to post applications and stuff like that. But what really tipped me off was when I actually showed up for my interview and I sat down and I talked to Leslie Fleckler, our CEO, while they were asking me questions, they understood that as a veteran, I had a unique perspective on what they were trying to do. And the fact that they were asking me more questions about services that would help. If, they were more concerned about process improvement on their end than they were about drilling down about who I was and how I could, be value added to them. Well, I mean, we did discuss that some, but their genuine curiosity about these are the issues that we see with our veterans. How can we help them off the bat? Like one of the first conversations that I had with the CEO was her genuinely wanting to reach out to figure out how we can improve our facility to better accommodate veterans. And for somebody that it's just a sticker on the wall or a badge on the wall or, some cute tagline on a website, they're not going to ask those questions because it's not something that they care about. And, that was what kind of opened my eyes a little bit to the organization and how they feel. But then, as I was going through my additional interview process, and then while I was even going through my onboarding, I was always looking for cracks in the foundation because, oh yeah, we're so great. It's a great organization. A lot of corporations like to do that. But then once you get in there and you start seeing the donuts being made, if you will, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's not really, we have to make sure we do this here. I haven't seen any of that. The first thing is always care of the patient. So it's, safety is paramount. And then a close second, especially in my dealings from what I've seen, is the dignity of the patient. And for somebody that was just looking to get business, they wouldn't care about the dignity part of it, because once they're there, they're there. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if we could somehow clarify, and again, I understand you're not coming from a clinical background, and neither am I. Let's just an everyday, you've had the experience in the military. You've seen guys come out, you've seen guys get help, and people who didn't get help. You've seen it. What is it that makes it different to treat somebody who's a veteran than to treat, Bob off the street? Now they both have the same diagnosis of maybe an anxiety disorder or a depression or this or that, but there are some real differences that have to be looked at. Can you explain kind of what some of those differences are?
Well, first of all, and as simple as it sounds, because we all speak English, there is still a language barrier. There are certain things that you could say to a veteran, and they're going to take it one way, and you're going to say the same thing to a civilian, and they're not going to understand what you're talking about. And even though, generally speaking, you're able to overcome that disconnect, it's an additional barrier to treatment, if you will. And it could be uncomfortable for a veteran who has to keep explaining what that acronym means or what that statement means over and over again. So they're going to kind of, shut down a little bit, and they're not going to talk as much because they don't want to have to explain everything that they say. Because there's a lot of stuff that a lot of acronyms and a lot of terms that we use in the military that just don't make sense in the civilian world. Like, for instance, flash to bang is one that I've had to explain umpteen times that civilians just don't understand. But generally speaking, a veteran's going to understand what that means, without any additional information. Also,
well, wait a minute. You can't drop that and then go on without telling us what it means.
Flash to bang is I do this now. This is when it's going to take effect.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's the delay into when you initiate something to its completion. That's flash to bang.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you,
Roddy. But with that, I don't really know how to put this eloquently, but there's a level of bonding through shared misery that service members have. And I'm not even talking about like going down range and horrible stuff happening. Like even the completion of your initial entry training is something that you can bond over, and then everything just kind of builds up from there. Even if it's a different branch, we all talk crap about the other branches, and that's cool. No, nobody else can talk crap about any of the branches, because, well, you didn't earn, or not you, but civilians didn't earn that right. And it's just kind of that camaraderie. Like, we're all brothers and sisters, and just like any brother and sister, just like my kids, they love each other. But man, you put them in the backseat of a vehicle and they're going to be going at it in just a couple of minutes. But at the end of the day, if somebody messes with my daughter, you best believe my son's going to be right there. And that, knowing that they are surrounded with people that have their back like that and are being treated by people who have their back like that, it's another level of comfort, and it helps them kind of drop their guard a little bit. So this way they are more open to receive the information that we're putting out. And, we're trying to give them more tools to put in their kit. So this way that they're more effective at dealing with it in the future.
Excellent. Excellent. You mentioned something about understanding, certainly. And again, you made it clear, and I'll make it, we're not calling out any individual treatment programs and what they're doing. Right. But as a general rule, we're saying that just because they put the word veteran on there doesn't mean they actually have a true veterans program. And one indicator of that is when you have one staff member who happens to be your veteran representative, who that's the only veteran that you have on staff, and they're a lot of times they're not even there all the time. So having staff members and people who understand not just the traumas that occur in military, but the actual just structure of that life. How important is that?
Oh, it's extremely important because just because we end that chapter of our life, a lot of the mannerisms that we acquire throughout that lifestyle, it doesn't just go away just because I'm not putting the uniform on. Like I still have to keep my head shaved because I don't want to look homeless. I'm trying a beard out because, I just retired a couple of months ago. I'm trying a beard out, but I feel like I look homeless. I want to shave every single day, but
It's working though. It's working for you.
my wife is like, no, keep going. Eventually you're going to like it. And I'm like, but
well, how long has it got to get before you're going to like it? I think once you reach your belly button, you're done. Forget it. Unless you're going to join, unless you're joining ZZ Top, you don't need it.
But just little stuff like that, making the bed, making sure that my work area is dressed, stuff like that doesn't just go away. And knowing that you're surrounded by people that have those same mannerisms, they walk the same way, they articulate themselves the same way, they operate based off the same relative code of conduct. All of that really helps bring people together, both amongst the patients as well as the staff that are serving the patients. And
having that, again, you mentioned the terms that you have to understand and things like that, but it's also understanding how that lifestyle has contributed to your mental health development, good or bad,
right?
And understanding that, and it's not. We're not talking about turning off one traumatic event. We're talking about in your 24 years of training, 24 years of learning one way, you can't just flip a switch. So there's strategies that have to be used to reach the issues, right?
Roger. Yeah. Especially when it comes to things like, resiliency training and stuff like that. A lot of it mirrors civilian training. And and I can only speak for the Army. I haven't done any type of resiliency training in any of the other branches, but it mirrors a lot of the civilian stuff that I've seen since I've come out, a lot of like the onboarding training, but it lacks that mission focused element to it, which everything that we do in the military, there is a mission. Even if it's just cutting the grass, there is a mission that needs to be accomplished. And every task up to that mission, whether it's identifying how many lawnmowers you need, how many soldiers you need to push the lawnmowers, how much gas you need, everything is working towards that mission. And it's the same way with the training when it comes to our behavioral health or suicide prevention and stuff like that. Everything is working towards that final end state, which when it comes to mental health is generally a healthier, happier, more effective, more lethal fighting force. Lethal for the enemies, not for us, obviously. But on the civilian side, it might not have that mission, that what's the word, that driven focal point, which sometimes without that people tend to lose their sense of urgency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And, and I think, in civilian life, that'd be like goal oriented but it's not the same intensity as mission driven. Right. Goal oriented is, this is what I'm heading for. I hope I get there. And military, that's your mission. You're damn well
going to get there.
Yeah, you're going to. Now, we talked briefly about at the beginning, or maybe before we went on air, about how you go and you talk to veterans and you show them what's available to them. Is that a real issue with people just not knowing what's available and not
absolutely.
knowing that there is help out there?
Absolutely. The one thing that I talk about the most, and funny enough, it's not even a Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health System thing. It's actually a VA thing. But the Compact Act, there's a lot of people that don't, even the veteran service officers have never hear of it. And when I ask them, they're always like, oh yeah, I know what that is. And then I remind them, it's not the PACT Act, it's the Compact Act. And they're like, oh no, what's that? That is something that allows an individual in crisis, so long as they served for a period of 2 years and did not receive a dishonorable discharge. They don't have to be enrolled in the VA. They don't have to go to a VA-approved clinic, and they don't require any pre-authorization from the VA. They can walk into any mental health facility and say, I'm a veteran, I'm in crisis, I need help, and the hospital would verify their eligibility, and then the VA would take care of it. So it removes one of the biggest barriers to treatment, which is the financial cost of it.
And also, before you had to go to the VA, now they're saying
Right.
you go wherever you have to go.
Right. In times of crisis, like if it's, oh, I need somebody to talk to, I'm feeling blue, that's not what it's for. It's
understood. Yeah.
It's it for times of crisis, and it entitles you to 30 days of inpatient care or 90 days of intensive outpatient care, depending on which is appropriate for your situation. So many people don't know about that, and they're like, well, because fact is that most of the time, I'm not going to say I don't like speaking in absolutes, because every time you speak in absolutes, you're wrong. But most of the time, those individuals are not in the best financial state. So they're like, I can't afford to go. I can't, the VA doesn't have an appointment for 30 days and I can't afford to pay somewhere. So I have to wait and I have to deal with it for 30 days. Sometimes that's too long. Like we can't have our service members waiting any period of time if they're in crisis. They need immediate help. And fortunately, they understood that when they signed that into law. I want to say it was back in 2023, but don't quote me on that.
I know it's relatively new, the last like 2.5 years or so. So
right.
3 years maybe. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about who should be talking to you, or more importantly, when should somebody start thinking about, maybe I just need some help? Because I think people, when they get the idea of going to like behavioral health system, Lincoln Trails behavioral health system, they're thinking like, well, I'm not that bad, or something like that. And the truth is that you can go at any time there's discomfort, correct?
Right. Absolutely. A lot of people think that they have to wait until they're in that crisis to go get the help. And if you're there, you're already behind the power curve. Anytime you just start to have feelings that are making you uncomfortable on a regular basis, and I'm not clinical, so I can't say, hey, if you experience this and this, you need to, but I'm just saying that if, it's kind of reminds me of a safety brief I used to give my soldiers. And basically the safety brief went like this. It's, if you stop and ask yourself if something is a good idea, it's not a good idea. Anything dumb that you've ever done in your life, you've probably stopped and asked yourself that question before doing it. And if you just said no, you saved yourself a lot of time and trouble. Well, the same thing applies to this. It's not, is this a good idea? If you start finding yourself asking, should I get treatment? Go ahead and get it. Like, don't think about it. Don't be like, well, or, minimize what you're going through, or, this is just me, I'm just being a baby. Don't do that. If you start asking yourself genuinely, do I need help for this? Go and get the help, because it's better that you go there and you find out you were just having a bad day than you kick the can down the road to it's something that you can't deal with on your own. And we don't want that. The point is to get you right, get you back on course before you find yourself in that crisis event.
Absolutely. And let's put it out there also that if you were to, certainly if you just want to call and ask questions, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Maybe there's a different suggestion. Maybe there's actually a physical thing that you have to go take care of that could be affecting you, but make a phone call and find out, because you guys will talk to them, right?
Yeah, we offer free assessments. You can call up to the hospital anytime. We're a 24-hour facility, so it could be 2:00 in the morning on Christmas morning. If you call the hospital, somebody is going to pick up the phone and talk to you. That's something that we are very, very proud of, and we try to make sure, because a lot of times people, that will be another barrier. Be like, oh, well, it's too late. I can't call today. When the fact of the matter is that's when the voices, as you said earlier, they tend to get the loudest. It is in the middle of the night when you're trying to sleep, but Netflix has got you and you start thinking about things. That's when people can really start to go down that dark tunnel. So don't think that just because it's 11:00 at night, oh, I got to wait until the morning. No, you absolutely don't have to. We will answer the phone. And everybody that I talk to, I give my phone number to, and it's my cell phone. It's attached to me. So,
well, the Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health, they're used to dealing with mental health crisis. They're used to dealing with addictions and alcoholism and all those things.
Yes.
And you're right. None of them work on a schedule. That's the 2 a.m.s you wake up in a cold sweat or you haven't slept in days. And that's when you start to really come apart. You can call Lincoln Trail's 800 number, 800-274-7374, and they can get you to who you need to talk to. But just call and ask. Also, confidential, right? Because I know that's important for a lot of people. It is a confidential program. You go in there, nobody knows. Tell me about that.
Yeah, especially in regards to our active duty service members, veterans, and law enforcement or first responders. We actually, that's a separate unit. So we keep them away from the rest of our patient population. And also the way the hospital is designed, it's designed so that no two groups of people will ever be transitioning in the hallways at the same time. So they don't have to worry about, especially, if you have a law enforcement official in there, they're concerned because, sometimes law enforcement do escort people to our facility in the event in times of crisis for them. And they don't want to go and get help somewhere where they might run into somebody that they ran into in a professional capacity. But if they do that, there is 0% chance that anybody's going to know that they're there. And obviously everything is protected by HIPAA. Like that is something that our parent company, UHS, they are very big on HIPAA and the protection of the patient's privacy, because if they can't trust that we're going to protect their information, then there's no way that they can trust us with their care.
Absolutely. That is so important. Now, I had mentioned before having well-trained staff and staff that have at least a handful that have veteran status or even active military status. Tell me about the staff there. You've been working with them for a little while now. You're getting to know them. How do you feel about the staff at Lincoln Trail?
I cannot speak highly enough. And one person that I definitely want to point out is our military program director, Natasha. She is not a veteran herself. She did grow up in a military family, but she is just phenomenal when it comes with the amount of information that she has. Pretty much anytime I'm asked questions that I don't know the answer to, I'm able to reach out to her. She has working relationships with the VA, and especially when it comes to the aftercare, because that's sometimes a point that tends to get forgotten when it comes to mental health. It's like somebody might come to our facility and they receive the treatment that they need, but they're not going to live at our facility for the rest of their life. And she is really exceptional at making sure they are set up for success after they leave the facility. So Natasha, I cannot speak highly enough of her. She is just amazing. We also, and I don't know her name off the top of my head, but we just recently hired a dedicated military therapist for the military unit, and she is a veteran herself. I don't know which branch she was, but that was one of the things that Leslie Fleckler did point out specifically, was that we had found a dedicated military therapist and that she was a veteran herself. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I don't know how you guys are, so let's hope she's Army. Okay. But my son was a Marine, so I kind of got the different sides. My grandfather Army, but yeah, that's great news. And that staff is so important. And you've had a little bit of time now. You came back and you found a passion and you started working in it. How has that worked for you in your life and even in your family's life? Did you make the right choice for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. It's working out extremely well. It's giving me purpose, and it's something that I know is going to have a positive effect that's going to ripple, because every veteran service officer that I speak to, that I give information to, that 2 years down the road is like, I know how to help you because this guy was talking to me this one day in my office about it. Like that effect is going to ripple, which is something that I was looking for, to know that, I could go somewhere and make a hamburger and feed somebody, but in 5 hours you're going to be hungry again. That's not a lasting effect. But this job, I'm positioned to have a lasting positive effect on not just the community, but more specifically the veteran community.
That's fantastic. That is great. And I want you to think about right now. There's a veteran out there, and they're struggling. They're struggling. Maybe they've started doing things like the outward stuff you start to see, like excessive gambling or excessive drinking, um, depression, isolation, which is a big one. They're doing all that. What do you want to say to them? Because what they're saying is, I could do this on my own. I'm fine. I could do this on my own. And I think you probably see a lot of that.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? They're listening to you right now.
Just you don't have to. You don't have to do it on your own. So why shoulder that? Why put those extra rocks in your rucksack when you don't have to? You have teams of people that are not only willing but want to, lighten that load for you. So don't feel like you have to take it on your own. Even if you can, what's the point of doing it by yourself when you could do it so much more effectively with the help of other people? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It makes total sense. Anything else you'd like to add before we close out the show today, Fred?
No, that was that was pretty much everything. I do appreciate you taking the time to reach out to us and see what services we have to offer. And I appreciate you everything you do for our veterans and first responders.
It is absolutely my pleasure. And again, I thank you for your service. And I thank my friends at Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health Systems for taking care of our service members, both active and retired, and of course our first responders and all the other people they deal with, and that they put the right thought into it and they put the right effort into it instead of just, again, slapping a sticker on the door saying veteran program, but not knowing what that means. And I'm glad there's somebody out there. People, please, you can go to lincolnbehavioral.com. That's very simple. lincolnbehavioral.com. Check out their website, find out what they're doing. You can also call 800-274-7374. Ask a few questions. Maybe you're a family member that just wants to ask because you're concerned about your dad or your uncle or your aunt or your mom, and you just want to ask a few questions. You could do that as well, right? You guys
Absolutely.
Also deal with family members in some senses, right?
Yes, we do have treatment available for family members and adolescents and stuff like that. Like, I realize we spent most of the time talking about our military unit, but our military unit is just 22 beds of the 140 beds that we have. And we also have the intensive outpatient program. Both, we have a dedicated military inpatient intensive outpatient program, as well as a civilian IOP. So we don't strictly service veterans and first responders. While that was a big point of the conversation today, we are still there for family members as well. We have the Willows and the Lotus units, which are points of pride for the organization with the unique care that they're able to. The Willows unit is a roughly 9-month program for adolescent females who have experienced some type of trauma, usually some type of sexual trauma. It's a very unique unit that not a lot of behavioral or mental health facilities have. And the Lotus unit is another adolescent female unit that is designed for individuals who may have found themselves in and out of the inpatient environment, and it's just a repeating cycle over and over again, and they find that they need something a little bit more to it. That's the Lotus, which is a 16-week program to help give them a little bit more tools for their kid to help them be successful in the future.
That's fantastic. They do service just about everybody at Lincoln Trail in one sense or another.
Yes.
Whether you're somebody with an addiction problem, somebody with a mental health problem, adolescent, adult, first responder, military, veteran, and or even active service. And of course, I assume you take all the military insurances and stuff, the TRICARES and all that.
Yeah, we take all commercial insurances, TRICARE, Medicaid, Medicare. We accept all of them.
So there's really no reason not to give them a call if you're having an issue. And, not everybody needs to go to that kind of intensive treatment, but it's better to find out if it would help you or not. And also just for people to know that there's help out there for them. Again, there's so many people that they take off the uniform and they're standing there and it's like, you feel like you don't have anybody around you anymore. And you want to make sure people understand you are not alone now. As a matter of fact, your brotherhood could get even bigger in retirement, couldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. There is definitely an intricate community of veterans out there that you just don't see because we're not in the uniform anymore. You got to look a little bit harder sometimes, but we're definitely out there, and we still got your back.
Yeah, they're all out there just doing their own thing, growing beards and just being, Fred, I really appreciate the time you took with us today.
Roger, thank you for having me.
And hopefully we'll follow up on this again someday soon. And if there is anything going on or ever anything that you want to get out to the public, just let me know. Okay, my friend?
Yes, sir. Will do.
All right. So we've been speaking with retired Master Sergeant Fred Sherrick, who's working with Lincoln Trail Behavioral Health System. I want to say working for, but he's working with them because they're all sharing a mission to help people. And in this case, we're talking about helping our veterans, which God knows they deserve every bit of assistance anybody can give them for everything that they do for us and for all of their service. We thank all of them. I am Scott Jones. This is the Sober Life Studios. You've been watching the Keepers of the Watch podcast. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye.